with Frank, just so you know, so the pubic bone is considered right here. Now I get it that it's elevated, so, but do you see how it's almost, I wouldn't say straight because it's on an angle in this way, but when a person presents and rolling over, and this is what I'm going to work on next with you guys as adults, but the leg, let's say, would come up, or you'll see the rotation through the trochanter, but even that, you see how by just this movement, how it switches up the two pelvic regions, right? The pelvis is independent, and when you do that too, see how the coccyx flags? I wish you would do this a bit better, but with screws it's kind of hard. So when a baby is in this position, let's say, but the organization of the movement is all through that pubic bone going into the floor, bringing up the head. Most people think a head lift is a head lift, not a putting my pubic bone into the floor, my back's going to sway, my tailbone counters my head and brings it up. Now, you and I get it. I can plank and lift my head and separate my head. You'll never see that in a kid. That starts happening maybe 8, usually about 10. They'll start trying it, but you'll see a kid, oh yeah, mommy, I can do that. The butt's going all over the place. You can't, to get a kid to plank, it's not, unless you've got like hardcore parents that really insist on something like that, But
when therapists recommend tummy time for special needs kids,
right?
Are you pro that? Because the kids that can't do it, they can't.
Okay, I'm pro it for the kids that, but this is what you have to go over. It's that pubic bone, because for kids that can't do it, like Frank right now, they feel like they're drowning.
Yeah.
So this is completely unprotected, and so if you're putting it in a position where they feel unsafe. And this is where stuff like SIDS happens and things like that, but that being said, and I'll do it on Madison then, this is a pre-crawl. Just this movement here, look what the pelvis can do. But if I'm constantly on my back, not only is my flat head going to start increasing like 2 folds, 3 folds, but I don't get the same, see, I can't do that circle. My pelvis isn't going to butterfly. So that's where I get all these videos, and these kids are lying there, and they're kicking, and their arms are swaying. None of this is happening, because it's not getting set up just from the basics of tummy time. And when I say, oh, the spine now is not twisting or rotating, they're like, huh? Yeah. Because they're seeing this cute, adorable baby, and that's where I say too, they're gonna totally bypass any kind of concern, because now doctors are looking for offset eyes, ears a little weird, dysmorphic features in the high palate. But I get these videos of these beautiful, adorable babies, and their eyes are there. They have full eye contact, but they're literally like, because their spines aren't going. And this gets compounded with a C-section, especially when it's a butt C, because, again, the child doesn't set up the rotation to begin with. So I'll do it quickly on the baby. So a newborn baby should be, you could do this, should be able to do this straight getting out once or just the day they're born. Now, I get it, SIDS happens and stuff. There's no reason why you can't sit there just like you would and watch TV and hang out with your baby. Let them get sleep and tummy time. But see, every little twitch, guess what? Is a pre-crawl. It synchronizes just all of this. They'll start doing these weird movements, but guess what? It automatically, in this position, counters.
The baby's creepy, I'm sorry.
Right. But when the baby's not starting to develop properly, and this is what happens, you put these kids on tummy time, and they'll try to lift their head here, whatever, but because they haven't countered, they don't know to do this, which again is a pre-crawl, or this. Do you see how if a typical baby, once they'll start bringing the knee up, and but again, that's a pre-crawl. Yeah. Right? Does that make sense? And then right here, guess where they're at? And this is what we're going to work on today. It's not that they have back muscles that brings them over. It's a pubic bone that starts hitting. And again, it's that weight transfer on the spine. And then eventually they'll start. And that's why you get airplane. Mm-hmm. The airplane is not a plank. When the first baby moves. But airplane is this. But guess where my pubic bone is? Yeah. So if I do this, or I do that, do you see how it's all through my pelvis? And that's what I'm going to work on with you guys. But most people see this as patterning and start doing this.
Yeah.
That is a completely different movement and organization in the body. Does that make sense? Right? But this, see here, and this is where I was telling you, see, and then I roll over. And then I come back up. But my hands are free.
Yeah.
Whereas you'll start doing, this is what old people do in bed. And because they have none of that, that all disappears. So when I'm laying down, and this is where I get kids that start looking like a frog almost, they start doing this. And I can tell outright that they're not only, what is going on is their pelvis is blowing out. So the groin muscles and ligaments become very weak here. Because again, I have to lift. Well, when am I going to lift? This is something that Krista would do in the gym. But a baby's not going to do. What a baby's going to do, if this works well, is they do this. Right? So again, it's like that airplane. But this is a completely different, and these are the videos I get about 4.5, 5 months. And the babies are like this, and they want it, but they have no way of getting it. And that's why at 4.5 months, again, to roll over, and this is what I'll be working on with you guys. See how my pubic bone goes out my belly? And it brings me right over. Completely different. So that way too, if I do it with my hands up like this is sort of what a Feldenkrais roll looks like. They go, and they bring their arm over, but I find a lot of people concentrate way too much on the arm and foot relationship versus that, the stomach going out and bringing them over. It's the stomach. Don't get me wrong, the foot and the hand have something to do with it, but the stomach relationship is much more. But that one is hard for baby too. When they have the head control issues, they get like this. And so that's where too, and they try and they start throwing out appendages. But this right here, the head is a lift. And then they get like that, and then the head wobbles like this. Or they go right into the rollover to the other side. And that's where I always talk about too, where the head momentum is too much. If I have more through here with my pubic bone, see, my head comes up. And that's where we're at right now, because she's starting to do all of this.
Yeah.
But people see the extension, but again, see how
Now
that...
that you do that, I can actually see the change in
her.
what she's done.
Yeah.
Right.
It's really
That makes perfect sense.
But do you see how I touch? I'm always touching for a functional movement. So I'm not doing poke, poke, poke. I'm looking for, and then when a child resists against me and goes against me, then I know I'm into the system properly, because then all of a sudden they do this and the parents go, what just happened? I'm like, well, I've been working on it for 3 days. But again, I'm realizing more what's in my pea brain versus what people are seeing. They're seeing tap, 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 versus that, back, pelvis is tilting, this, I'm bringing out, look, when I say, when the foot counters behind versus this, see again? Total different organization of the pelvis.
Can you do the reaching that you were working on with Cupcake versus like what special needs kids do versus...
So they tend to do, you know what I mean? Because it's not shooting through their system. But see how, it's not that I go long here, see how this twists? Right? So it twists. See my rotating of the hand, and my leg rotates. See the counter rotation? This is where I realized that muscles themselves have to rotate, because I wouldn't be able to do this with the sliding filament. That filament has to be a rotating filament to do this and to do this. If it was a slide, then you'd only get this, which, again, adults can do. But again, ask Adam to do something like this, it's not happening. Suzanne Summers, yes, but not. So again, too, pubic bone, hands go out.